Ever wonder what it means to be a Salesforce enterprise architect? Allison Park discusses what it is and breaks down the pieces of enterprise architecture. Welcome to 100 Days of Trailhead, where the tech community comes to learn Salesforce, learn tech, get inspired, and invest in ourselves. We are your trail guides, here to support you on your learning journey. We release videos weekly. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a video. In the description below, you can find links for everything we mention in this video, as well as books and resources we found useful. Visit our blog, 100daysoftrailhead.com, for other helpful Salesforce and tech content. A principal enterprise Salesforce architect from Salesforce Inc. breaks down the components to build a Salesforce enterprise architecture. Allison Park implemented her first Salesforce org in 2010. She has been hooked ever since. She has been a Salesforce customer, Salesforce partner, and now an employee.
Hi, I'm Allison Park. I am a principal enterprise architect here at Salesforce, and I want to share with you today in just a few minutes enterprise architecture. So enterprise architecture is something that very few organizations do, and I'm going to share with you the Salesforce methodology so that hopefully you can do it at your organization. So a little bit about me and my background. I started as a Salesforce customer at a manufacturing company. I then moved on to being a consultant and a partner with Salesforce for about 8 years. And now I'm here at Salesforce doing enterprise architecture with many organizations in the manufacturing and distribution sector. So let me give you an example, an analogy that we like to use here at Salesforce about enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture is very similar to urban planning. If you don't do that planning up front, you end up with a bit of a mess. You don't have, in urban planning, if you don't make that plan, you have parks and schools, and things are inefficient, they're siloed. You really can't move around and really live very fully in this organization, because as something was thought of, it was put in and there really wasn't a big plan. Versus good urban planning, things are thought through up front of how you want to grow the city, what things you want to connect, what are the rules that everyone's going to live by, and this creates a much more livable environment. It also is more scalable, meaning that as you expand the city, you've already planned for it. So these are kind of the analogy we like to use when it comes to enterprise architecture. In real life, enterprise architecture is there for 3 big reasons. One, you share data across any organization, and it is in different databases. And you want to think about how are each of the areas in the organization going to be able to access the information they need and no more or no less. We also want to be thinking about business transformation. What is it like to work with this company, either as a customer, a volunteer, a donor, but also as an employee, as part of that organization? What's it like to move around and serve the customers, serve the constituents that your organization serves, if you don't have that easy experience to be able to find the information you need quickly, easily, and accurately? And then lastly, we know every organization is a heterogeneous one. So we've got a lot of disparate places, and integration is going to come into play. So we have to think about, how do we connect all these systems? So our EA methodology is business value led, meaning that we start with business architecture and we end with understanding what is the value that this architecture is going to bring back to the organization. We want to keep it lightweight. And we want to make sure that we have minimum viable architecture, meaning that we have enough of a plan in place that we understand where we're going and where we are and what things we need to do in order to get to where we're going. And I'm going to go step by step through each of these. First is business strategy. So we want to be able to talk about the organization and where it's going. Usually we do this by working with the executives and asking them some key questions. You may notice that it looks very much like a V2 MOM. It's a very good way to understand high level What are your key goals? What objectives are you trying to get to? How are you going to measure success? What kind of risks and obstacles do you have? And understand what methods you can do, and just really kind of bubble that up for the organization. The next step is really to understand what's the experience for the customer or the donor or the volunteer or the client that you're serving, whoever that may be, to work with your company. And you want to understand both from that outside perspective as the external person who's being served by the organization, but also as an internal person. What are the things that you need to do current state today in order to drive the business forward? We can do this in kind of a journey map, get some personas together, understand the person on the inside of the company and the outside of the company or organization, and what things they have as challenges. What does the current state journey look like? Make sure you have that documented, and then create a future state journey. Where are the friction that you're going to take out? How are you going to improve the process as you start to look forward into this process? And then the next step is capability mapping. Capability mapping is something I think is a really great tool. Very often when we look at a new project, we think immediately to requirements, user stories. What are the things we want to do at a much more detailed level? Those things are very important, but they're not necessarily the thing as you're doing enterprise architecture that you want to think about first. So what we have is a capabilities map that we come up with. We actually use these cards, but in this today's virtual world, you can actually go to that sfdc.co/sfcc, Salesforce capability cards, in order to see the business capability cards that we use across most organizations. How are we marketing and reaching out externally, selling, and so on and so forth. Not all of these are going to apply to every business. In fact, what you want to do is extract the ones that are most relevant for your business. As you look at those capability cards, they are also going to describe a definition of what it is, some key performance indicators, some functions, and some best practices. So as you go through this, you're going to evaluate which ones are relevant for your organization and which ones aren't. And that's going to create a capability model. And then once you've done a capability model, I've shared some definitions about what capabilities are. So really, I like to use the example of lead management. That's something we can all relate to. It's a very standard thing that we do in Salesforce, but it's an example of one capability, and it's really a term that's used to describe a business thing, not thinking technically, not thinking requirements. It's really describing something an organization needs to be able to do. So we've broken those out. Here's more information. You can put a pause on this screen if you like to get into some of the definitions. And also we want to go through, once we have our capability model, and really score it. Where are the priorities? Where are the things from a capability score, people, process, data, and technology? Do we have medium to large gaps? So that we draw attention there. And then from a business impact, if I was doing this capability as well as I possibly could, how impactful would this be to the overall organization? So that way we come up with a bit of a scorecard to understand this is where we have the largest gaps and this would be the most impactful. So this is the priority that we're going to go after in terms of a capability, rather in terms of a requirement or initiative or something like that. Those should relate to those IT initiatives, but they are broader and kind of open up your mind for more possibilities of what you need to accomplish. And then the next step is to map out the current state. Where are we starting from? What does the technology world look like today? And probably the easiest thing to do is start with a roadmap. Understand with functions, what are the various tools that are being used? How do they connect today? It can draw out weaknesses. It helps you to understand how things are flowing together. What's my total inventory from an IT perspective? And this is a good place to start. The next thing that you want to do is look at a future state vision. What would I like it to look like from an architectural perspective? Future state, hopefully you're simplifying things. You've got fewer systems. You've got smoother connections between all these systems and be able to articulate that in a logical map. There's other ways that you can leverage conceptually and draw out that architecture in different ways, whatever works best for you, but you want to have a current and you want to have a future state. Because the next step is a strategic roadmap. How am I going to get from current state to future state? And in that, we can create a strategic roadmap. And we like to break it down into multiple phases. So we're not trying to do everything all at once. We're starting with the most important the things that have high impact and biggest gaps today. What are the capabilities that we're going to close? What's the strategy that I'm going to use? And what are going to be the benefits that I'm going to get out of doing that? And that really brings us to our 7th step. And our 7th step is understanding the business value assessment. And if you are not someone who's great with accounting or finance, definitely partner up with someone in finance or accounting to help you articulate that as far as here are the improvements and how can I bring that back down to actual dollars, that I'm going to do these things in order to bring this much more to the bottom line or to create this much of an improvement and to really quantify it. I think this is an important thing because as you're looking at the strategic roadmap and you're starting to propose that throughout the organization, people can get behind these kinds of improvements because they understand for the pain of change, this is the benefit that I'm going to get. So this is the entire methodology. I hope this was helpful. It's really nice and lightweight. It's something that we can all work with at whatever organization we may be. You don't necessarily have to do it in exactly this order, but these are the various methodologies and components that we need to focus on so we get a full view of the enterprise and we can help move our organizations forward and make them more efficient, more profitable, more productive. So thank you very much for your time. Look forward to hearing any feedback you might have. Thank you.
And with that, we're at the end. Are you interested in striving to become an enterprise architect? Comment below. We would also love to hear what video topics you want us to cover in future videos in the comments. If you've made it up to this point, we want to take an opportunity to say thank you. Since you stayed with us, here's a bonus. Enterprise architecture is ever evolving. It must be continually validated with the organization and updated to meet the strategic direction of the organization. Thank you for spending time with us. Please like and subscribe to our channel because we share weekly content to support your tech and Salesforce learning journey. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss a new video. We also handpick these videos which we recommend you watch next. Connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and on 100daysoftrailhead.com, all of which are listed below. Thank you for learning with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.